All right. I'm letting everyone in now.
So, Brooke, can you still hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so when you're letting everyone in, and then once they're in, are you like cueing me, like I just start right in, or?
Yeah, they're already coming in right now. So
Okay.
you can start whenever you're ready, and we're good to go. And what I'll probably do is put myself on mute. And if anyone needs any help getting into the Zoom or webinar or anything, I'm going to help them.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, so it is 12:30 on the dot. We're going to be very prompt, and I want to welcome all of you who are just logging in here to our webinar, Real Talk, Your Road to Recovery with the TVCC. This is presented, of course, by the Temecula Valley Chamber of Commerce. I am Kim Kelleher. I am a member of the board of directors of the Chamber, and also a founder of Grapeline Wine Tours and Strider Transportation. Welcome, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today. The purpose of this webinar is to discuss business recovery right now. What is happening out there? What are we going to do as we move into recovery mode with our businesses? Please note that our panelists today, they are speaking from their experience as business owners and managers. It's opinion, this is what I'm doing. It is not necessarily the only way to do it or super expert advice, although I think most of you are experts in your field. So we really appreciate you all being here today. This is going to include information about what we can do right now, the next steps, and the next phases of business recovery. So before we begin today's webinar, I do have a few Zoom reminders. I'm sure you've heard these a few times now, but let's go through it one more time. All of our attendees, that's all of you out there, have been muted. So if you have a question, please enter it into the chat box or the Q&A box. They're both located on your screen at the bottom. You should be able to see those. If you kind of click on your screen, that chat box should come up, and you can enter your questions as you have them, and we'll be addressing all those questions at the end of the panelists' presentations. You are only going to be able to see the presenters today and myself, and we are not going to be able to hear and see you, unfortunately. So that's why that chat box or that Q&A box will be very important. Thank you for that. You're also going to receive a follow-up email with a video copy of this presentation. So along with any links or documents that we discuss, any resources, feel free to put that in there that you're asking for or you'd like to see. That'll be included in what's sent to you afterwards. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started. And I want to first welcome our panelists. First of all, we have, he's in the middle of my screen. I don't know where he is on yours, but we have Al Rubio. He is our chairman of the board of the Temecula Valley Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors, and also with DCH Auto Group Temecula. We have Kimberly Fries-Euler, also a member and first vice chairman of the board of the Temecula Valley Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors, owner of Clear Blue Promotions, and operations manager of Euler Spine Sports Medicine and Family Practice Clinic. Also today we have Jeff Kurtz, general manager of the Promenade Temecula. Very excited to have a little bit of action happening at the mall, and we can see his mall background there. Looks great. Also a member of our chamber board of directors. And finally, our final member of the chamber board is Jackie Steed, known as the real estate agent with the Irish touch at Reliable Realty. So look forward to hearing from all of you. All of our panelists have different backgrounds and sizes of their business. So we were excited to bring you this variety, this sort of different look from different perspectives. And we're going to get started right now with our chairman of the board, Al Rubio.
Thank you, Kim. Appreciate that nice introduction. It's great to have everybody on board. I was really encouraged to see that we had a lot of people sign up. So welcome. We're glad you're here. You know, piggybacking on what Kim just said, there's a lot of different backgrounds, and what I want to preface, our presentation today with is that we understand that every business is different and one size does not fit all. For instance, the business I'm in compared to, say, an attorney's office or a barbershop or like that. But one thing we all do have in common is that we're anxious to get back to business. I mean, there is a sense of urgency. We've been working hard behind the background to get all the information, resources for you folks and pass it along. And I like to call it, it's an old saying, but we've been the squeaky wheel and we seem to be getting some traction. So we'll continue to work for you and we'll get going. Somebody said, I think it was Bill Wilson that said that closing up California was his 9/11. And I got a feeling there's a few of you that feel the same way. I know I do.
Absolutely.
I remember exactly where I was when I heard the words, stay home. I'm over 65 and what do you mean stay home? I can't stay home. But it's become a reality. I do not like the term new normal because new normal implies that I accept what's going on, and I do not accept it. I'm working with it. I'm adjusting. We are at DCH, but we're also fighting. It might be a little bit strong of a word, but we are doing everything we can to stay in business because we all have to keep the lights on and we all have to feed ourselves and pay our bills and what have you. So, and part of today is that. So going back to DCH, we immediately were in shock. We were lucky enough to be deemed essential because of our service department. So our service department continued on. We were able to sell vehicles because if somebody gets their car breaks down, it's not worth fixing, or they get, God forbid, a car accident, they need a car. So we were able to sell cars. The problem was the first couple of weeks, many people were afraid to go out. So people were leaving their dashboard light on and not getting their car serviced and not doing the things they needed to do because they were afraid to come out. I don't know if some of you remember our old owner, Mrs. Donna Reeves. She, we were part of the Norm Reeves group. Donna was a germaphobe.
Oh, no.
I think that is the very first person I ever saw use hand sanitizer. So when we had I believe it was the swine flu, we really stepped it up. And since then, we've had hand sanitizers, gloves, constant cleaning for years. So, we obviously have had to step it up. But we've been working with Waxy for years, and I admit it, we're hoarders. We've had supplies for years, and we have run short, but we have not run out. So we continue with our scrubs. We have folks that come clean at night, but we also have folks that are there during the day. And I don't mean to make light of this, but I know that when I'm at any store, the grocery store, and I see the cashier wiping down the counter, wiping down the little credit card machines.
Al, we lost your video for a moment there. I think you might have hit a button. There you are.
Okay, sorry about that. Okay. So to me, I tell myself, is that really effective? Is that cleaning? Is the mask effective? And then I get to thinking, you know what? It's psychologically effective.
Right. I think that's true.
So we are taking extra precaution at the dealership to make sure that, we tell our cleaning people, make sure that the customers see you cleaning, see you wiping down, see you with your mask on, because it is psychological effective. So that being said, let's talk about a couple of things that we think that you can do. Number one, like we're doing today, stay connected. It's really important whether you're staying connected with your furloughed employees, the community, your industry, especially your industry. I strongly recommend, with us, we have dealer groups that we work with and we get newsletters and what have you, which, we read from front to back. But I would suggest whatever your business is in, try to stay connected with businesses that are like yours, similar to yours, in size like yours, to see what are they doing? What are you doing? Maybe you can be a resource for them, they can be a resource for you. But I think that is just really, really important. Next, we want to talk about maybe new policies or protocols. This is the time to fine tune while you have the time to do it. If there's something you've been doing in your business that you've been thinking about changing, adding, omitting, now's the time to do it. Really take the time to think about a policy that needs to be changed, a protocol, say with a customer, a vendor, obviously your employees, or maybe something with your industry. Maybe it's a time to source out or look for new sources, supply chain Emily was just talking about, or maybe your vendors. That's somebody else you want to stay connected with, but maybe you have a vendor that you haven't really been that happy with. Now's your time to possibly shop around, look for another vendor. And God, we all know that we're anxious for customers and we're motivated to maybe get a better price on something. And even though when we do open up fully, what's that term that people are using? You're putting profits over people, and I'm thinking, what profits?
Right.
What profits? And it's going to take, months, maybe years for some people to become profitable if they can afford to. So you want to be looking for ways to save money as you have the time. Another thing that we want to talk about is you're going to need to expect to operate with lots of restrictions. And you don't want to open your doors not knowing what those restrictions are. You want to be ahead of the game, whether it's masks or sanitizing or just something that comes down the pike on equipment, something that you need for your business. You want to make sure that you have that and you're ready to go. The worst thing that can happen is you're open a day or two and then you find out you don't have equipment or software or even just sanitizer that you have to have. So I heard you guys talking about that before we opened, and I think that is paramount to getting you going. I guess it's be prepared.
Right. And Emily, our CEO of the chamber, was saying that the chamber is going to be involved in helping source some of these things.
Absolutely.
Right. So that's going to be hugely helpful for business, I think.
Really good point. Thank you, Kim. And then another thing too is, training and reorienting your workforce. If you're staying in communication with your furloughed people, it's an opportunity for them to maybe do some online training, some education, and also for them to stay informed. Just send them an email and say, hey, you know what? You might want to log into the city council meeting. There's some good information on there for you. And I strongly recommend you guys do that too. Going back to staying connected, log on to the city council meeting. It's easy enough. There's a lot of good information there. You're in the know. You can share that. And also the board of supervisors and of course the governor's updates. I really strongly recommend you do all those things and you will see light at the end of the tunnel. I promise. Protect your personal brand, protect your company's brand, and be prepared. And I know that we'll see our way out of this. So good luck to all of you. And we are here for a resource for you. You're welcome to call the chamber. You guys know how to contact me personally, just to be a shoulder if you like. I'm here for you. We're here for you. And God bless. Take care.
Thank you so much, Al. And I just want to remind everyone to please, if you have questions for Al, go ahead and type in your questions in the chat box or the Q&A, and you can send it to everyone. Send that question to everyone because other people may have the same question, and we'll make sure we address those. Even if you have something just kind of specific to your business, feel free to ask that question because we do have some of our chamber staff on here who can respond to you personally or maybe head you into the right direction related to your industry. Okay, so all right, we're gonna continue on now, and next we have Jackie Steed with Reliable Realty. She's going to talk to us about next steps.
Hello, everybody. I hope you're all doing well. Thanks for tuning in today. My name is Jackie Steed, and I am a local realtor with Reliable Realty. We were made essential from the start, so we've been working this whole time. Obviously, everybody's businesses have changed. I've actually been pretty busy. This is normally the busy time of the year, but we've just had to adapt with how we do business. So obviously, open houses have been canceled. We haven't done open houses in about 6 weeks now, which is totally understandable. And then we're taking other precautions when people visit homes. So we'll only show homes to pre-qualified people. They have to all sign a PEAD, which is a liability waiver, for them to be able to view the homes. So there's that whole process involved. And what it really means is just that it's a safer environment for everybody. Not all of our staff obviously were working. Our photographer took a couple of weeks off. Our videographer took a couple of weeks off. So kind of put us at a standstill and reorganized things while they were taking their time that they needed to spend with their family and to feel safe. So we're back to full on at this point and really conducting business. A lot more listings are coming on the market and a lot more shoppers have been out shopping for homes in the last couple of weeks. So the real estate industry is really important to the entire community because it's not only buying and selling houses, but as we know, when people sell homes or buy homes, they use moving companies and they, contribute to the local economy. They get familiar with the towns that they're moving into and the resources that they want in those towns. So making us essential, I think, was really, really good for the community as a whole and for our economy as a whole. So we've been really working hard to keep that going and continue to bring people in. And our numbers are actually really good. We're right where we were last year at this time. We have less homes on the market, but our sales are still in the same spot. So thank God for that. So we're going to continue phasing in employees, and I definitely would, implore all of our companies that are out there to do the same thing. So what are your plans moving forward? Let people go, you put them on furlough, but now is the time to really start bringing them back and making them familiar with what your new policies and procedures are going to be. I think it's really good too. I go to Tina Gottlieb, she's my chiropractor, and she's been really good on social media showing people how they're constantly keeping the office clean. So maybe put that message out there. It gives people an idea of what steps they're taking and also how to get some marketing power out of those steps. So this is what we're doing to be ready. We want you to feel safe when you come back into our business. And they're really targeting the people that are really scared. So everybody else goes along with it under that, but those are kind of your target people that are afraid to leave their homes. Along with that, we've all been on telecommute schedules. I do a lot of Zoom with a lot of my clients. Any concerns, a lot of phone calls, a lot of virtual stuff going on. So definitely maintain that until we're up and fully running. And then check in with your employees and make sure that they're adapting and adjusting. We don't know what has changed in the last 6 weeks in regards to what their family situation is and what their comfortability is in regards to moving forward and opening their businesses. So touch base with them in regards to that and now what hours they're available to work, whether it's childcare issues or just in different family situations. And last but not least, I encourage all of you to really connect with your clients personally. I think this is the most important thing. Reach out, let them know who you are as a person and as a company and what your concerns are, and listen to theirs. There's that saying, we should treat people not how we want to be treated, but how they want to be treated. So really, this is a good time to kind of send out surveys and say, we're getting ready to open. What are your concerns? What do we need to do to make you feel safe? And then give me feedback. If you walked in the door and you didn't feel comfortable, let me know. I was just in the olive oil company on Monday getting a gift for a client, and they did not require masks, and people were walking in and out with masks, and it was preference, but that was their prerogative as a company. So I encourage you to know what your policies are and think of what your customers' policies are going to be and what their concerns are.
Jackie, I think that's a really good point. I have heard that from a few people. Once the mask restriction was lifted by the county, some businesses, people are surprised to go in and see the people serving and such not wearing masks, and it's making some people uncomfortable. So that's a great point. I received a survey from Blue Water Grill the other day in my email. It's like, what would be important to you? And it was like, well, these are good questions. You know, do you care about whether the menus are disposable or not? You know, and it made me think in my own business, what questions do I need to be asking my customers? So I think that's a great point.
Yeah, and I think it's really important. And the olive oil company, it's really open, and they had really cool air. So there was air, you know, moving around. So it wasn't you're in a cramped, tight space. So I actually felt safe not wearing my mask. If it was more of a condensed space where there wasn't a lot of air, I would feel like we're sharing a lot of air in this room, you know,
Right.
and I would put that mask on. So just to be safe. So I encourage everybody to do that. Also, we have a lot of resources available. Chambers keeping their COVID page updated on their website. And there's a lot of different business coaches and great people just sharing information. One of our past speakers at Women in Business, which is Haiti Antanza, she has a great page on her website. I have put up the link. I will share it with you guys as soon as I'm done talking. And it's 5 ways to bond with your customer prior to reopening. So if we're going to do this, let's do it right, put some thought into it, and really, you know, kind of kick back with a boom. So I think that's really exciting.
Excellent. Okay, Jackie, is that a wrap?
That's a wrap. I'm good.
All right. So if you have questions for Jackie or on any of the topics that she covered, please share them with everyone so we can all see them. And next we're going to move to, did I do this in the right order? I'm sorry. I believe, if I apologize if I'm in the wrong order, but Jeff Kurtz with the Promenade Mall, if you could share with us a little bit about the next phase.
Thank you, Kim. So first I'll tell you a little bit about what's happened at the Promenade. You know, it's got quite a few tenants here, and so this certainly has been quite a big impact. But industry-wide, we're going to probably see quite a few retailers that don't pull out of this event and will end up closing business, file bankruptcy. We've seen quite a few already do that. Mostly so far, we've seen mostly Chapter 11s with reorganizing. So a lot of national retailers closing stores around the country. That doesn't mean that they're closing their stores here necessarily, but a lot of them are, again, are closing around the country, trying to reduce the number of stores they have. It could be a good thing for our economy. I mean, certainly we want to get rid of waste, and it helps when businesses that aren't doing well and aren't really serving, you know, do reorganize. But it's you know, it's upsetting when people lose their jobs and we lose access to those retailers if it happens in our city and town, of course. But in any case, we've now moved, as the orders have changed, we're now moving to curbside pickup. You may all know restaurants were allowed to do pickup or delivery service only for quite a while now when we started. Now retailers are now allowed to do curbside as well. They've all been doing, most of the national retailers have been doing online purchases anyway, so you can have stuff shipped, but now you can order stuff online and then you can come to the mall and pick it up here, and they'll have an employee bring it to your car, put it in your backseat or your trunk. So you can get it right away, you don't have to wait for it to be shipped. You might be surprised to know that a lot of our retailers actually use their stores as for shipping. They actually are shipping the merchandise right out of their stores here, not necessarily going from warehouses. The department stores have done that for quite a while, but now a lot of our small retailers are doing that as well. So kind of getting on with some other stuff. So that are important to make sure that you're all staying informed. There's a lot of great information online. You know, I am checking, and I encourage everybody to look at the Riverside County website every day. That's ridclph.org, and if you go to /coronavirus, you'll get the coronavirus update. That website includes all the county orders as well as any state mandates. So state orders that come out as well. Those get updated daily. It's important to know that in Riverside County, that the state mandate right now, we're actually the county is in line with the state mandates, which is nice, and hopefully that will stay. But the counties do have the ability to impose more stricter restrictions on us than the state does. They can't impose any less restrictions, but they can impose more. That's happened in our case. Riverside counties have much more strict policies than the state had initially had when we did the stay-at-home order and shut down. So remember to stay informed with that and make sure your employees are informed as well. And that's going to be important. Remember that, be ready to adjust. Things are going to change quickly. You're going to see as we continue to go through these phases and the state opens. We're now in phase 2. We're kind of at the beginning of phase 2, and it seems to be that there's actually phases of phase 2 because I'm seeing different things happening at different times as we move through phase 2. And restaurants, as an example, restaurants now are able to do a little bit more as well. Some restaurants are allowed to have customers inside their space limited, maintaining minimum occupancies. And if you're a business, that's one of the other things. There's a lot of things to consider. When you're talking about occupancy, make sure you know how big your space is. You might want to look at where merchandise is placed and where, how your aisles are set up and access points. So people don't have pinch points. They don't, they feel more comfortable with plenty of room to get around and move around within their space. Use the social distancing techniques. That stuff's going to continue with us for quite a while. Possibly even after COVID-19, some of these things may stay in place, and you'll want to make sure you're looking forward and thinking forward about what policies you're going to want to keep even after this is all over, because I'm sure there will be some. But use tape or floor decals. Make sure you've got signage up. I know Al mentioned a minute ago to make sure your customers know that what methods and procedures you're carrying out as well, and that you're taking this all serious. That's important for the customer to feel safe in your environment. So make sure your employees are well trained and they're following those procedures. Make sure that you're communicating to the employees about what those procedures and policies are. In some cases, you may consider, as I know we have with our employees, we put policies for cleanliness in place and for wearing masks and gloves and such in place. And those policies they had to read, they had to acknowledge and sign off on electronically, because nobody's handling things anymore these days or sharing them anyway. So, consider those type of things.
Hey, Jeff.
Yes.
I'm just going to interrupt you for just a second. We're having a slight technical difficulty. Al, you have 2 squares up and you're getting feedback. So if you could mute, I'm sorry, I sent you a message, but it's giving us feedback. So it's hard to hear Jeff. So, and we may not be able to get rid of.
One of your screens is on mute, Al, and the other one is not.
Oh, there we go. I think we got rid of one. I'm still hearing, is that cars going by the mall? Is that what that is, Jeff?
No, the mall's pretty, as you can see, the road behind me is pretty empty right now.
Yeah.
I was muted.
There we go. I don't know what was going on. Okay, I think we're better. And then Jeff, if you just talk a little louder too, that might help us out. Thank you so much.
Okay. I'll try. My laptop actually sits a little bit further away from me. So anyways, I'm not sure where I left out. So, again, customers, and again, this is something I'll mention, it's important that customers see that you're implementing those policies and procedures for their safety, as well as your employee safety. Make sure that your employees are well trained and they've signed off on your policies and procedures as well. They know what's going to be expected of them. Make sure you've got messaging on your doors and inside of your cash wrap, where you're in contact with customers as well, so they see that in writing what you've committed to be doing as far as cleaning your space and taking care of them.
Jeff, another point on that is like I'm not an expert on sanitation, or sanitizing things. So I assume there's guidelines somewhere that we can tap into. Again, that might be something that Chamber, I'm sure, has already provided for businesses that we could, is there something that we could say, hey, this is what we should do as a small business, what we should follow, and here's what we could put on our website? I mean, what kind of resources are out there?
So the
Nope.
chamber, I know the chamber has information on that as well, and I would use the chamber as a resource. They have a lot of information. Everything that we've done actually and implemented in our company. And Brookfield is it's a worldwide company, so you have hundreds of malls across the country, and so we're experiencing malls opening now and going through all this, and so we're having discussions on a daily basis of best practices and learning, what mistakes other malls have made so we don't make them as we continue to open through the process. So I would encourage you, use those resources, collaborate with your peers. And I think Alex, somebody else mentioned that as well. Collaborate with your peers, other businesses, be informed of what they're doing, share best practices with each other. Somebody may have an experience that they can share with you that might help you, so you don't have the same experience and you have a more positive experience. I know, we want to make sure we're pointing out the document that Emily shared, the chamber shared, and a lot of information. I know I'm discussing, quickly pointing to on page 9 regarding phase 4, the reopening the economy and making sure that our customers feel and the public feels safe, making sure they know what measures we're taking. You can find a lot of that information as well online at Riverside County Health website. The website I gave you, Riverside County, there's a lot of good stuff on there also. Let's see, one other thing I wanted to mention is too, is I don't know if there's any landlords on here, but landlords need to be.
I have one burning question. This is breaking news. I heard it this morning. I'm hearing it again. Is the Cheesecake Factory closing?
No.
Woo!
Cheesecake Factory is not closing. No, yeah, be careful to what social media sites you do listen to, because there's a few out here in our neighborhood that tend to give a lot of really bad information. And you don't see us, just to tell you, you don't see us typically respond to a lot of that stuff, because
okay,
if I were to respond to a rumor that came out, it'll blow up, into a bigger thing than it needs to be, and more people get involved and say stuff, and it just gets out of hand. So we tend to be more quiet, especially when it comes to those news sites that aren't very reliable, that tend to be a lot of gossip that people really talk about. So just be careful what you're hearing out there. There've been over the years, there's been a lot of crazy stuff I hear that come on those websites about the mall and tenants and things. It was announced, I don't know if anyone's aware, but it was announced this past week that Nordstrom's is closing several of their locations and a few in Southern California. They're closing at Gallery County, Riverside, and they're closing at Marco Plaza, both those being in the Inland Empire. So there are, again, like I mentioned at the beginning, there's going to be a lot of retailers that are contracting, pulling back, closing stores. There's a lot of franchisees I know out there that are going to really be struggling, especially those in the food industry, because that's really getting hit hard right now because of the cost of overhead they have just for those businesses. It's really, they just don't have the ability to close like this. And you imagine food restaurants and such that had to close, and many of those that couldn't really stay open. I mean, product that they had, would go bad. In fact, most of it got donated, and that's just all lost. Lost expenses. No income. It's a bad place to be. But I wanted to say for I don't know if there's any landlords on the line. I'm happy to take questions from anyone who is a tenant that maybe you're not comfortable asking your landlord a question. You just want some insight on how to deal with or how to ask your landlord a question and what questions you might want to ask. So happy to answer those for you. But as landlords, we need to be leaders right now to our tenants, and we need to help, especially those mom and pops, those small business owners that may not be as sophisticated as our national retailers. We need to help them understand where resources are at, where they can find financial resource help with the SBA loans and the PPP programs and those things. We need to help provide them a lot of this information that such as the chamber is providing and has available for us on how to clean your business, what the expectations, what the rules are, how Businesses should be expected to continue to operate as we move through these phases. Um, you know, landlords should be a leader in all of those areas. And so you should be able to look, if you have a landlord, you should be able to look to your landlord for assistance with that stuff as well. There is no financial assistance programs out there for landlords. Our only financial assistance as landlords is going to come from the support that our tenants are able to find and get so that they can pay rent. Because if they can't pay rent, then, at some point, we can only manage so far, because we still have to pay real estate tax, we still have to pay the bank, our loans, we still have all the overhead of maintenance and everything with our projects. So,
Hey, Jeff, we have a few requests for you to speak up a little bit and maybe because it's a little hard to hear. You're trailing off a bit.
okay, I'm
So
sorry.
somebody was wondering what you said about landlords exactly.
What I was saying was that landlords should be leaders to all of our tenants at this, going through this this COVID-19 thing. They need to be helping to provide information to the retailers, to the tenants, helping provide them financial resources like the SBA loan information if they don't know. There's a lot of retailers out there, tenants that may not be as sophisticated as some of our national retailers. And those guys need a little more help. We should be, as landlords, directing them to that help. Like I had said, as landlords, there is no financial support out there for us. Our only financial support is going to come from the support that the retailers or our tenants are getting that allows them to pay the rent. Again, we still have to, as landlords, will have to pay our bills. We have to pay our loans on our projects. The banks aren't relieving us of any of that.
Mm-hmm.
We still have to pay the real estate tax, and all the other things that come to managing and owning a large project. So just keeping that in mind. And I think that's about it that I was going to share. And I'm happy to answer any questions. If there's anyone that has a question that you don't feel comfortable asking your landlord, or you want to ask someone at your landlord, I'm happy to provide my insight.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Jeff. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
And we are ready to go with our final presenter today. It's Kimberly Fries-Euler. She's going to be talking a little bit about the next phase, part 2.
There we go. Thank you everybody for joining in today, and a lot of great information. And some of what I'm going to say is could be just a repeat of what we heard with Al and Jackie and Jeff, but Clear Blue Promotions, we are a small business, and then also my husband has a medical practice in town that I do a lot of the operations for. So initially for Clear Blue Promotions, orders slowed down for things like t-shirts for the class trip to Washington, D.C., because obviously the 8th graders weren't going to go to Washington, D.C. any longer. So those kinds of orders slow down. Then we saw the next phase of orders come through, which were, gosh, I've always been wanting to do this. It's been on my to-do list. And now that I'm sitting at home and I don't know what to do with myself, I might as well get this project handled. So we got going on those orders. Soon after that, the next thing that hit us was we had to change our product line almost. And it was almost an overnight situation. We now had to become really just experts at all the different masks, the different kinds of hand sanitizers, plexiglass barriers, signage, whether it's a sidewalk sign or a sign on your front door, decals on the floor. So we've really had to morph kind of our day to meet the needs of our client. And so that's one thing, is to make sure that you're being flexible out there, and that you realize you really can kind of change your course of business or change your merchandising to meet the needs of what's currently out there. On the medical side, when this very first started, we had the conversations, boy, I wonder if we're going to be able to do telemed, if we're going to be able to see patients remotely. How would that work? Will they allow it? Boy, overnight, the next thing you know, everybody needs to be able to be set up, have your systems, the security, the the IT guy, give him a call. Hey, how do I get set up to be able to see all of my patients remotely? And so we are seeing a lot of patients virtually, telephone, virtual visits. But in the office, it changed the way the office looks too. You don't have a waiting room any longer. How are you wiping down a treatment room? Because we do still see orthopedics, so we do still see people, in the clinic. What does that look like to sanitize and wipe all of that down? And whose job responsibility does that become to do that? Because really all of the current employees are tasked with their normal day-to-day, but now we've added on this whole other layer, this very important layer of cleaning, sanitizing, monitoring. If someone's presenting with some sort of symptom, they don't come in. It's a telemed, it's a virtual visit. So it's a lot of being flexible. So that's one thing I'd really want to point out. Another thing that I really think with the branding is we need to make sure we're communicating with our audience. And Jackie's touched on this. We need to talk to our clients. What do they like about us? What do they want us to see? How do they want to experience our product? How do they want to be able to come to our shops? Or do they want more opportunities online to interact with us? What is that? So we really need to have that communication. The other really important part is we need to talk with our current employees. They probably have some wonderful ideas and they just need to be asked or just given the opportunity to say, hey, what if we change this? Our lobby might not look like this anymore. Our desks shouldn't be in this positioning. Shared things, like we're not probably going to be sharing staplers and scissors and things like that. So just kind of preparing when we are open or when we do get to open, what is that going to look like? What is that flow of traffic pattern, customer? What does that look like? What do they want from us? And to communicate that back to them, we're taking your input and we're making changes because we want you to feel safe and secure and respected when you're in our place of business. The other thing I really think is important is there's a lot of business that's done just around the water cooler. If you're in your business, you might say something, hey, I meant to tell you I ran into so-and-so and they want this. Now that's not happening. Everybody's remote. So that dialogue has really been limited. So make sure that you've got your checks and balances, your procedures in place to really make sure that tasks are being done from A to Z and nothing is being overlooked. That everybody has that opportunity to chime in or be informed. I think those are really important. The communication with your associations, your other memberships, because, as other panelists have said, they're going through the same thing. They have maybe have asked questions or found things that have worked for their businesses that would translate over to yours. And they might be a great way to share some of the best practices to keep people moving forward. And so again, it's that communication. Don't feel afraid to reach out. Don't feel afraid to ask your client or ask your employee, what is it that you want? Keep your name out there, keep your logo out there, keep your brand out there. It is important in this time. We may be at a point where we have to reduce the amount of merchandise we have in our shops, the less opportunity for exposure. So we might have new positions of restocking or cleaning, or, we might be hiring people to do these new tasks. Changing your product line, clear blue. Like I said, now we're doing a lot in the way of masks and hand sanitizers and signage, and a lot less on t-shirts and that kind of thing. So you have to be prepared to change. And then the other thing, I just really think we need to remember that we are a community of support. We're doing this. The chamber is setting a wonderful example. We're here to support everybody, and we're not really a community of competition. We are a community of support, and we're here to help everybody. If you have a question, voice it. Feel free to ask the chamber. We'll help you find an answer. So we just really want the best for everybody as we navigate through these times, and just wish everybody well.
Excellent. Some really good points there, Kimberly. Definitely, I think it's comforting to think that we should all reach out and work together and, look for advice in our industry from maybe even work with our competitors a little bit on what are they doing. We don't all have to become experts on everything. Yeah, it's so overwhelming. It can be really, really overwhelming to think you have to come up with all these new protocols. So the more that we can collaborate, and certainly the chamber is a great place to do that. So we appreciate it. All right, so we have a few questions that have come through. And of course, anything that occurs to you, please feel free to type in your questions. This was, I thought, just sort of an interesting question. I've got to go scroll back up to it here and find it. But have any of you thought, and this would be really more for the mall, and I'm thinking, or the auto group, has anyone addressed or thought about HVAC systems and how if that should be?
Yeah, that's a great question, actually. Yeah, so we are, of course, there isn't a mandate out there that I've seen that requires this, but we are actually sanitizing all of our HVAC coils, our systems, and we're installing special filters that are an upgrade filter that will also prevent any, virus or microorganisms like that from getting through. So they're kind of like a HEPA filter. So they're very expensive, but all of our AC units that serve the common areas are getting changed out right now as we speak. Matter of fact, I think our HVAC guys here today doing that.
Wow, that's something
Yeah.
I wouldn't have thought of, but that's very comforting, as someone who is going to shop at the mall. That's good to know. How about you, Al? Have you guys addressed that as well?
We are on a pretty tight schedule changing them. We haven't changed anything special, but we do change them because again, Mrs. Reeves suffered from pretty bad allergies, and her legacy lives on because her VP afterwards also had actually got put in the hospital one time from allergies. So we're just in being sensitive to our employees who suffer from allergies. We're real good about changing out our filters and having our HVAC system up and running in a clean, have a nice environment.
But that's something, I'm in a building that, we rent an office space, and that's certainly something like, oh, I'm going to ask my landlord about that. So I think that's a great point. It's funny, Al, I think all the germaphobes have now been, justified.
Great point. I was right all these years.
Right. We had a question. It says, are some of, what do you guys think about maybe discounting your services in bringing people back in the initial stages? Is it better to get a portion of what you used to get to kind of lure people back, or how does that apply to relationships of your returning customers? Are they going to expect something special? If you want to start out maybe on that, Kimberly.
Take myself off mute. To have the incentive of having a discount to come back, there is always that draw. But I think people, when they are ready to, or when we're ready to open everything back up, I think people are going to go and be loyal to the places that they have had good customer service from, that they feel safe doing business with, that they feel like they are being respected, that they've been communicated with. What are your concerns? What would you like to see from us? So I don't know that I would necessarily start out with a lot of discounts personally.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense. Does
Kim,
anyone else have a comment?
I have a.
Go ahead, Al.
Yeah, we actually, in the month of April, we had a worker from Temecula Valley Hospital come in to get her Kia serviced. And luckily our service manager saw she was wearing her uniform, asked her where she worked. She was getting an oil change. And when she was done, she said, "It's on us. Thank you for what you do." So we did a few more free, and then we actually did a promotion, 50% off for educators, healthcare workers, first responders, and truck drivers, and anybody who's been furloughed. And we actually, that's about cost for us on minor service and like that. But we had a pretty good pull from that. One, we just did it because we thought it was the right thing to do. But I think we built some pretty good goodwill and loyalty. And if they don't come back, they don't come back. But I think some will. And so as we progress, we'll probably do a little something again on that. The the misnomer is that we make a lot of money on car sales. We don't. Our business is in the service department, so we don't really have a lot of room to do discounting on cars and what have you, aside from what the factories allow us to do or support. So we'll probably continue to do some stuff on the service end.
Yeah. I'm in the hospitality mostly, and so wine tours and transportation. And so I'll chime in on this as well. I think people are more concerned about feeling safe is going to be my thought on that. And also they're going to be pretty eager to get out and do stuff. So as long as they feel safe in getting out and going to restaurants or buying cars or, promotional, whatever you're doing, I think that's going to probably be the more important side of that. Certainly, we did some things to encourage people's loyalty. Like we, of course, had a lot of tours on the books that got canceled. And if people were willing to leave their dollars with us because they pay at the time of booking, we gave them a tour credit, good in time in the future, plus a bonus. So it was just sort of a thank you to say, hey, thanks for trusting that, we're going to be back and do this. You're going to do it in the future with us instead of, asking for a refund right now. So rewarding customer loyalty, maybe with little special things rather than discounting, is kind of the approach that we're doing. All right, let's see. Feel free to, raise your hand and jump in if you have something else you want to say. Go ahead, Jeff.
Can I chime in a little bit on there? So I think what we're anticipating is going to be quite a bit of pent-up demand. People want to get out and they want to experience things again. But as you said, Kim, they need to feel comfortable and they need to feel safe where they're at and with the things that they're doing. So they're going to expect that we all have, are implementing those policies, procedures in our businesses. I think that retailers right now, it doesn't do a lot of good to necessarily drop prices for retailers because we don't know what that traffic is going to look like. We're looking at traffic as malls are reopening across the country, and some malls are, I think after reopening, they're somewhere around 30 to 40% traffic of what they were before. And so, and remember, with social distancing, we can't have people crowded inside every retail space either.
Right.
So I don't think it does a lot of good necessarily to drop prices and try to drive a lot of traffic to your store right now. I don't think customers are going to show up for that at the moment anyways. And if you do, you might end up with another problem if you've got, a crowded store all of a sudden and,
right.
And people are afraid to come in or whatever. So, or something else might happen. I don't know how authorities are going to respond to that too, but we just need to be conscious of that. I also think, I've kind of thought about this a bit, and we've got a lot of retailers that, if you think about it, a lot of retailers that have merchandise that's been sitting for a very long time in their stores. They've got merchandise that's been sitting in warehouses that was on order to ship to the stores prior to when all this went down. So there's going to be a lot of merchandise out there that needs to get moved very quickly. But at the same time, there's been a stall or a stop in most cases in new merchandise coming in because they had so much stuff, stored up, that was supposed to go out to the retail stores. So I think that it's going to take a while to get through that. But my fear is that if the replacement products aren't available when they're needed to replace all the product that does get sold as we start to grow and build, as retail starts to come back online, then there's going to be a shortage of stuff potentially. And with that, and the fact that our federal government's printing up a bunch of money, we could see quite a bit of inflation happen. So it's going to be very interesting to me to watch all of this unfold and take place as we move through and get closer. I think that the slower we go through that process, I think the better, because we need to get manufacturers back online to start providing product before we run out of it, so we don't end up with a problem. But it's going to be interesting to see how this all unfolds, because it seems to be moving almost as quick towards the opening side as it was when we were moving to close.
Right, almost a little bit scary. But you know, we're got time for just a few more questions, and I completely forgot to introduce somebody who I want to point out real quick. She's going to join us on video. It's our CEO and president of the Temecula Valley Chamber of Commerce, Emily Falapino. There she is. Emily, sorry about that. She was going to join us on the Q&A. You can unmute yourself there for a second and say hi.
Everyone. No, there's no reason for me to have to chime in too much. All of you panelists have knocked it out of the park. I mean, the information that you've shared has just been so incredible. I was taking notes myself. And if there happen to be any questions that we haven't answered, I just want to encourage all of our attendees to reach out to the Chamber office at info@temecula.org, and we will make sure that you get answers to your questions. And then it's just important for you guys to know that I think the conversation that you guys are having today really sets the trajectory for what the Chamber is going to be focused on the next few weeks. And that's just helping everyone navigate through reopening and recovery.
Excellent. So thank you, Emily. I know there was a question for you, but before we get to that, there was a question that says, have any of you had experience with utilizing virtual reality to reach customers, clients, audiences, not Zoom or video conferencing, but actually, you know, 3D tours, virtual tours, that sort of thing? And we can start with Jackie.
Yeah, 3D tours kind of started, Zillow introduced it earlier this year, so I was already on board, fortunately, when this hit. It just happened to be timing. And it's come in extremely handy because, again, we don't want everybody walking in the door. We only want people that are truly interested in the product. So they get more of a visual of the product, and they can make their way around the house and see where everything is located. So there's definitely a lot of companies out there that are offering that. It might be a good thing too for other, besides real estate, for other companies, the mall, to be able to do something like that and say, okay, so this is how we're making you safe. This is our stand for the hand sanitizer. Here's our how people have to stand in queue at the different stores. And just if people have a visual of how safe they're going to be when they walk into these.
That's a great idea.
A lot. And I agree, you know, I think this needs to be done slowly. It needs to be done right. And I see musicology of Temecula there. Writing a few notes in the comments. People are just, I know as a shopper, we're chomping at the bit to get out there, but we want to be safe. And I don't think that we need to discount our products, especially since as business owners, it's going to cost us more with the cleaning and the products that we have to provide and possibly the extra staff that we have to provide to keep everything clean. So a discount is not going to make our economy grow. Us getting back to business and doing it the right way, I think, is what's really going to help.
Any other comments on that? I know, you know, in the wine tour business, we thought about using the virtual reality, and some of the wineries have, and I thought it was a perfect idea for the wineries when they couldn't have guests in the facility to say, hey, here's what we're doing, here's our winemaking process, and it's just kind of a fun getaway. It's not quite as exciting to, you know, be on a little shuttle maybe, you know, in virtual reality, but certainly that's something that it's been utilized well. And I think as things open up, it may not be as common, but I tell you, I'm going to continue doing these virtual tours of these amazing places around the world. So if you are in a business, or, you know, like a winery or like something, I think you can have a permanent virtual reality type tour to share and put out there on your website, and is a great idea. So I like that.
Do you think my technicians want to, people want to see a technician changing their oil?
Right? No, we don't. I'll tell you that. And I didn't see that question that was specifically for you, Emily. Did you see that?
I don't know that I did. Was it this, let me see here. We had a most recent question that was about which industries are open. Is that what you're referencing?
It might be. I just saw that there was, or Brooke or somebody mentioned there was one, and I didn't see what it was.
Yeah, you know, actually there were a couple of questions that were relative to the same question. And it's essentially like, gosh, how do we know what businesses are open? How do I know if I'm essential or if I'm included in the governor's new allowances. And it's an excellent question. I'll tell you, this last week, the County Board of Supervisors, as you know, rescinded a lot of their own restrictions, and they've aligned themselves with the state. And I share that because the county had a list of businesses that were permissible to operate, and the state also had a list. And so depending on which list you looked at, you might be a little confused. So now everyone should be deferring to the state's list, and we will send out a link so that you can see exactly the live real-time updates from the state of California about which businesses are permitting. And in a gist right now, we're in the governor's phase 2A plan. So all manufacturing businesses, the distribution, transportation, and logistics that support that. We're seeing curbside retail. We still have limited service restaurants. The restaurants in Riverside County are only permitted to do grab and go, takeout, or delivery. As of yesterday, I believe the governor allowed offices to return to work only if those offices did not have an ability to offer a telework environment. And there are a handful of others, so we'll email those out to you. And then if you ever have ambiguity, like my business could be perceived in multiple ways, then send that to us. We have some communication pathways through the city and state where we'll ask on your behalf without mentioning your business name, and we'll get a direct answer from the state for you.
That would be excellent, Emily, because I know I'm sure so many of you are in the same boat where you're reading all this stuff from the chamber, from the city, from the county, from the state, from various, everybody's an expert now, and it's impossible to keep it straight. And it's really difficult to know, okay, what rules are we operating under exactly? I saw the most hilarious thing today from one of your staff, and it was meanwhile in California, the phases are the opening the phases, and then we have, hired staff to go with phase 1, and then they're planning to phase, it's just like, it's really confusing, right? So it would be super helpful to have a real clear direction. And it's good to know that we're sort of defaulting to the state and that we can kind of look at one thing at this point. Agree?
Agreed.
All right.
Hey, Kim,
Yes.
I just wanted to say, you're really doing a good job. You're good at this.
Oh.
You're like Temecula's Oprah.
Hey, I'll have to tell you that story sometime.
All right.
I'm curious what you guys think. Do you, two things. What do you think will change possibly permanently moving forward? What have you taken away from this that you will maybe personally utilize? Like, for instance, for me, we have staff throughout the state in our 5 locations, and getting more familiar with this kind of technology, this Zoom, I'm absolutely using this with my staff in the future, because it's so much better to see everyone's face, and as opposed to doing the conference call where we're all talking over each other. So that's one thing that I'll absolutely continue in the future. Can each of you maybe do a quick address if there's something that you've learned during this time and that you'll utilize?
Yeah, I'll say something, Al, here. One, I think hand sanitizer is a fact of life. It's never going away. 2, I think, piggybacking on what you said about Zoom and the other media that's out there, I think that it brings a whole new efficiency to meetings, because our time is limited. And I was sharing with Kimberly earlier that when a Zoom meeting is over, it's absolute. It's over. There's no hanging around afterwards and sharing notes. The meeting is over. So I think when we have live meetings, I don't think we're going to be a lot more efficient because of what we've learned through this way of doing meetings.
Yeah, I agree. And I'll have to point out, I didn't know this, and maybe most of you know this, but you can save your chat. Down at the bottom, there's those 3 little dots right by where it says 2. And if you just click on there, you can save the entire chat. And so you can get all the links and different answers that people have shared.
Oh, cool.
Kimberly, Kim, one thing that I've noticed, and I think we're going to see this for quite some time, is the supply chain is not being filled as quickly. You know, a lot of the merchandise does come from other countries, and with the amount of flights being lessened, there's not as much cargo being air transported, so it's taking longer for items to get where they need to be. And, you know, we're in the midst of that now. We've got items that we've produced for clients, but they're stuck at the ports. They are not getting processed and sent out. And so I think that supply chain is going to be something we're going to have to navigate through for quite some time.
Makes sense. You know, one person in the chat here said that they've learned to have even more of a financial buffer, and that the state has the ability to shut you down at any time. You know, I was talking to somebody who consults with small businesses, and she was saying she was just floored at how many people were really only like a week's income away from not being able to operate. And you know, it certainly makes you reassess what you're doing in your business and where your buffers are.
Yeah, I think too, in the real estate community, there's a lot of agents that kind of just go from deal, we're fine for a while, to deal, we're fine for a while. And if you're in that situation and when stuff like this happens, you're really in trouble. I think that it has made us really reflect and to put positive vibes out there, that we can't dwell in the negative. We're not going to survive, that we really need to be positive and think ahead, and really appreciate what we have and what we took for granted 6 weeks ago. And lastly, we have such an amazing network of business owners here in this community. We have so many resources that are available to us, and we are so fortunate. We are not in a big city where it's everybody fighting for themselves. I think we're all really looking out for each other and trying to help each other. So I think we're very fortunate in that situation.
Yeah, I would totally agree with that. I know we're a little bit over to Al's point. We need to wrap up pretty soon, but Emily or anyone else, did you have any closing comments?
I'd like to just share on the last point that was being made. You know, it'd be interesting to see how all of this affects office space with so many more people now, you know, learning how to work from home. And I imagine that a lot of businesses are finding that it can be very efficient for some of their businesses. So you might see the need for office space shrink down a little bit. Who knows, you know? But that was it. That's all the other comment I was going to make. You all seem like you're waiting on the edge
for
for me to
that
say
final
something else.
point.
I did have something else I was going to say, but I lost it as I was talking.
No worries, Jeff. I think we're out of time. So for those of you, if you didn't get your questions answered, the Chamber is just an excellent resource. All of us as board members are available, have contact information. We're happy to answer more questions or collaborate with you. I want to thank everyone for attending our webinar today, and a special thanks to all of our panelists. Everything that was mentioned here, you're all going to receive a link as registered participants. So you will get all of the information, some of the things that were referenced as far as recovery plans. You're going to be receiving that. And of course, the Chamber staff is working very hard to serve you, the business community. And so please feel free to reach out to them anytime. Okay, y'all have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.